Now live. Добър вечер на всички. Добре дошли в На всяка манджа меродия подкаст. Днес ще бъде малко международно издание, защото на гости ние директно от Канада и сега в София. Alina McLeod, welcome to the podcast.
Здравейте, everybody. Hello, hello.
Oh, you're getting your Bulgarian skills level
the
up.
The basics.
I mean, you speak Russian, right? So it must be a little bit helpful, at least for the pronunciation.
For sure. The biggest thing that helps is reading, because I can read Cyrillic. So because I'd say maybe 30% of the words are similar, I can make quite a few things out reading, but when it comes to speaking, that's still very difficult.
Okay, I'm going to introduce a little bit to the audience in Bulgarian for who doesn't know you. Значи, приятели, Алина Маклауд е контент креатор, инфлуенсър от Канада, която преди 6 месеца дойде да живее в България и ние преди някъде една година видяхме нейното видео, където тя обяснява защо се мести в България и сега ще разкажем малко за нейния живот, за нейната история. Гласувайте в анкетата дали трябва да ви превеждам или да ви давам малко контекст за какво говорим. И така. So I gave the people a little bit of your context that you came from Canada and you're a content creator. But I told you in our conversation before going live that I don't know your story myself exactly, right? So already people were texting in the chat that you're very cool. How did your online career and your digital nomad career start?
Well, I've had a YouTube channel for almost 10 years now, which I think is a very long time, but it definitely was not successful to begin with. I initially wanted to be like a beauty fashion sort of content creator, but did not get many views. And it was only when I posted my travel content that kind of, got more views. So at year 2-3, I started to feel like, oh, maybe there's some potential here. Maybe I could do this as a job. I think that was kind of around the time when you saw, influencers becoming a thing. And in 2019, when I only had 20,000 subscribers and was only making like, $300-400 a month, I just decided to be full-time. And I took a lot of big risks that I would not take now, but I guess it worked out at the time because I wouldn't be here now if I didn't do that.
What kind of risks did you, were you working something that you completely dropped off, or what happened?
Well, at the time, I was actually working in the modeling and acting industry since I was 15 years old. And when I was doing it in Japan, it was my full-time job. But when I tried to, do acting in Canada, there just wasn't that much work. It didn't pay that well, and I just didn't get booked enough that I basically had to do side jobs like waitressing or promotional gigs to pay the bills. So my YouTube channel was kind of like my creative outlet that I liked because I didn't have to wait for somebody to give me permission to do it.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. You were in Japan. How did that come up? From Canada, you hopped from Canada to Japan. And in Canada, you lived on the East Coast, right? Not on the West side.
Well, actually, I grew up in central West Canada. I grew up in Saskatchewan in a really small town. My dad's a farmer. But yeah, when I was older, I moved to Toronto, which is on the East Coast, and that's our biggest city. So that's where I spent most of my adult years.
And in which part of your life did Japan happen?
When I was 15 years old, I went for the first time for a modeling contract.
Okay, and in Japan, you were more successful as a model because maybe there is not so many people with Caucasian, let's say it, or why Japan was more successful than Canada?
I mean, there's a lot of, or at the time, actually, now I don't know actually if it's as good as it used to be, but at the time, Japan, you know, had so many successful companies like Honda, Casio, Canon, you know, and they wanted to hire a lot of foreigners for their marketing campaigns. And so there was a bunch of modeling agencies that had people from all over the world. So yeah, luckily I worked quite well there, and there was so many opportunities. Like I was going out for, you know, 5 to 10 castings a day. Whereas like in Canada, I'd be lucky to have maybe 2, 3 auditions in a week.
And this is something you really wanted to do. Like it was something like, I mean, I guess for girls, it's like not so uncommon as a dream job.
Yeah. Like you know, I was definitely interested in fashion. I liked beauty. Like that's why I wanted to have a beauty YouTube channel, because that was like my passion at the time. But yeah, I really enjoyed modeling while I did it, but I knew that it wouldn't be like a long-term career, of course.
But also one thing that I figured out for the first moment I watched your video about moving to Bulgaria is that your name is Alina, which I think it's like a common name in Eastern Europe. Like you originally are from Ukraine. You were born in Kiev, and you have like mixed roots between Ukraine and Russia. Were you just born there and you moved as a baby, or do you have memories from your childhood in Eastern Europe? When did you first move to Canada?
Yeah, so I was born in Kiev, and then we moved abroad when I was like almost 5 years old. And I do have some memories of, you know, that time, but I think when you're really young, you know, it's all a little bit hazy. But since we do have a lot of family there, even now, like we would go back, you know, every year or two. So I have a lot of memories in Ukraine. And yeah, like it's always been kind of a part of, you know, my personality, I guess you could say. Even though I'm very Canadian, I'm not fully Canadian. You know, I definitely have the Eastern European aspect to me, I would say.
So it's a very similar story to mine, because I moved when I was 8. I mean, almost 8. But also for me, some of the memories are starting to get like a mush of like years that I cannot really separate from each other. But as you, I kept going back every summer, and we spoke Bulgarian at home, so that was the way to keep the traditions and the roots still sort of on in the family. And did this Eastern European side of you helped you to choose Bulgaria, and is it helping you now that you're moved, like to understand more the local culture or better?
Absolutely. I joke about this with my friends that I think, you know, if you just pulled a regular Canadian or American and dropped them in Bulgaria, I think they'd have a bit of a, you know, little bit of a culture shock unless they're really well traveled. But if you're from Eastern Europe, it's not that surprising. You know, some of the negatives, you know, aren't as difficult to deal with because you've dealt with them before. Like many of the problems Ukraine has, you know, Bulgaria has, and vice versa. So it was a reason of why I chose Bulgaria, because, you know, I'm comfortable here. You know, I understand the people, and personally, I like the people. As difficult as, you know, some people can be, overall, I really like the, you know, personalities here.
What is we Bulgarians like to focus on the negative side of things, but there are many positive sides of things. But I'm curious, you have like a different point of view on our country, and I think people are really curious to know like your honest opinion. So what are some of the positive things from the culture shock that you might have gotten, and the things that you also like maybe see a little bit as a negative? I'm not saying that, I mean, and then nothing is black and white, but I don't know, in the daily life can get annoying.
Well, one surprise, you know, that I had, because obviously, like, I had come to Bulgaria before I decided to move here, but it isn't until you really try and, you know, live in a place that you get a different picture about it. And so one interesting thing that I kind of didn't expect is that here I have met some of the nicest people that will go like completely out of their way to help you and are so welcoming, like more than they would in Canada, even though, you know, Canadians are generally very friendly people. But at the same time, I have also met some of the rudest people that I have ever met, that I'm like, why are you so angry? Like, you know, like some, you know, immigration office, or like, you know, people just, I don't know if they're just having a bad day or what it is, but I've never been to a country where you have two very polar opposites, you know, the nicest people ever and some very difficult people.
Mainly in like bureaucratic offices, or in other contexts too?
Mainly, but you know, customer service, you know, same as in Ukraine, it's coming along, but it still has a ways to go, I think, to get to like North America kind of levels.
I will translate this briefly, so because I think it's very curious. Значи попитах я кои са най-хубавите неща, които е забелязала в България, когато е дошла в хората, и най-лошите, и каза, че имаме, нали, има най-милите хора са в България, но също така и най-нелюбезните, особено когато става въпрос за бюрокрация и за така обслужване на клиентите. I think nobody will be surprised by this. And later on, I'll ask you some questions from the audience, because they're very happy to have you on and asking all possible questions. Was it very hard? Like, you did all these series of videos that we've watched, but I mean, you can say it in your own words in our conversation. The whole process, the bureaucratic process. First of all, you did a little bit of research. How many countries did you look at before choosing Bulgaria? Or
yeah, it was a long process actually to decide. Like it was over a year to first decide, you know, so just researching between a lot of different areas of the world, and then finally settling on just Eastern Europe. And then, okay, from Eastern Europe, you know, what are the top places in this area that would be the best fit? And yeah, I mean, it came down to actually 3 countries: Bulgaria, Albania, Greece. Those were the 3 that, you know, would fit what I was looking for the best. But then, yeah, to do all of the paperwork, to secure the visa, and like I had hired help as well. You know, I definitely couldn't have done this on my own. It took at least like 6 months, 6 to 8 months to, you know, get a residency card.
When you started the whole process, was it very unusual for our embassy and for our like officials, or is it becoming a more common thing for more Canadians to move to Bulgaria?
I mean, I did have like an interview, you know, at the Bulgarian consulate in Toronto, and he did seem surprised. He's like, so, you know, why are you moving here? Like, you know, what do you want to do here? And I'm like, well, you know, I've been here. I really liked it. Like, I think Bulgaria actually has, you know, a lot of potential. And I feel like people in the world actually don't recognize it enough. So I felt actually very confident in my decision. So hopefully more people will like discover, you know, what a cool country it is.
Yeah, I think many of us, when we watched it, we were surprised. And like the funniest thing is that when I reacted to your video, many people in the comments were like, talk to her in a year after she's in Bulgaria. But
I understand where they're coming from, and I guess, you know, we will see. I did just get here, so we'll see, you know, as the years pass, you know, if my opinion changes. But it all depends on your personal circumstances, right? Like, I understand that, you know, many Bulgarians do choose to move abroad because they feel like the job opportunities, you know, are better. But at the same time, I know there are some Bulgarians, you know, moving back because of, you know, specific businesses that, you know that they can open here in Bulgaria that might do better than they would abroad. So it all kind of depends.
Yeah, that's true. But coming back to your decision to move abroad from Canada, what was the tipping point to move away from Canada? Because there are still many people in Europe, I think, not only in Europe, but particularly in Western Europe, but all over the place, that would love to move to Canada, and you moved away. So what was for you the moment that you were like, why?
There's a lot of reasons. You know, the first of which was my job. You know, I knew that if I wanted to continue doing what I'm doing, Canada really just wasn't the best, first of all, location, right? Because we're so far away from everybody else other than the States. So it takes a long time to fly anywhere else. It's also very expensive. And also, obviously, the cost of living, like the cost of living, especially in the last 5 years in Canada, has gotten exceptionally bad, as it has everywhere. Like, obviously, you know, Bulgaria has had the same thing happen. But if I was to have a home base and pay Canadian prices and not be there half the year and spend so much money to travel, you know, to and from countries, like, I just can't afford it. You know, at this point in time, I can't have this job and have a home in Canada and keep doing this. Like, basically, I knew I'd have to choose either settle down in Canada, do something else, or be able to continue to do this, but I'd have to do it from a different location.
Well, that's surprising to me, because before we started the conversation, I checked that you have over 300,000 subscribers now in YouTube, and you do content in English, which usually pays better off. But I guess the taxes are insane over there, or I don't.
All things considered, like, I do like fairly well, but just with how expensive, you know, it is, and how expensive, you know, travel can be. Like, yes, I get something sponsored, but a lot of things, like, I just pay myself. Like, I pay most of my flight tickets, most of my hotel accommodation. So if I'm traveling half the year and paying for a home and paying 30-40% taxes, like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and particularly you said that you don't get the benefits of most of the taxes you pay in, because you're gone.
Exactly.
When was the, like, you told me you decided to go full in with this thing? What was the process in the beginning? So you were at 20,000 subscribers. First of all, how did you get to 20,000 subscribers on YouTube?
So much effort. Well, I mean, I started traveling, like, to Ukraine first. I think that was my first travel content, just traveling back home. And because at the time there wasn't many, like, content creators, like, covering Eastern Europe in general, I think that's why my videos did, you know, somewhat well. And then I also did some trips, you know, to Japan when I was doing my modeling trips. Those videos got some pretty good views. So those were kind of the two main kind of areas of the world where I got that first 20,000 subscribers.
And then when you decided to do this full time, what changed in the process? You maybe saved some money and decided to invest them into traveling and filming, or?
Yeah, so I decided to do my dream trip, which at the time, and, you know, this was 2019, so before the war, obviously.
Before COVID.
Yes, exactly, right before COVID. I wanted to do the Trans-Siberian Express across Russia. Like, that was my dream trip for a very long time. So in the beginning of 2019, I worked, you know, as much as I could to save up as much money as I could before I went. And I traveled for 6 months across Kazakhstan, Russia, and Ukraine. And within, those 6 months, I more than doubled my subscribers. I think I had like 50 or 60,000, you know, at the end of that trip. And, you know, I still wasn't making a crazy amount of money, but it was enough to, like, sleep in hostels, you know, go to stolovaya, like cafeteria style places, and, like, basically budget travel. It was enough to budget travel on. So that's kind of how I got my start.
So you were the nicest version of Bald and Bankrupt.
Yes. It's funny you mentioned that, because actually it was him that actually inspired me initially to do the trip.
I think we reacted to one of his videos because he came to Bulgaria, to Ruse, and he went to Buzvuja. Maybe that's a good destination for your video. We have this.
Oh, I did it.
You did it? Did you go to that like ruin that looked like a spaceship?
Yeah, it's super, unique.
And what is your creative process like? Also, you mentioned Bald and Bankrupt. Who inspired you to do videos? For example, I really love Casey Neistat, but I mean, I do something completely different now. So who were your inspirational figures to start doing this job?
Yeah, I mean, Bald and Bankrupt obviously does like really good, like raw travel kind of stuff, talking to local people and obviously getting himself into some troublesome situations, which I personally wouldn't do, but I commend him for that. But I also really like Eva Zubek, who's, a great like solo female adventure traveler. I think, she puts out really great content. But at the same time, I also like people who do not so crazy kind of stuff that give really good suggestions about places to travel. Because when I'm traveling myself, like I like to be able to just watch a travel guide video so I know the general things to expect when I go to a country, instead of having to buy like, some big book or something or spend a lot of time researching.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. And what is like your tools, or they change all the time? I guess you have to be very portable because you're traveling, so smaller cameras, smaller microphones.
Yeah. My favorite camera is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. That's almost always what I'm like filming on. But I also have like some cameras from Insta360, and I used to have a Sony, but I do find that the bigger cameras, I just don't use them because they're too big and too heavy. So yeah.
And when was the first time you came to Bulgaria? Wasn't it also like during the pandemic you got stuck there?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a weird time, obviously, for everybody. Like, luckily, I was back in Canada when the pandemic like just started, because everywhere shut down, right? So I spent about 3 months at my mom's place, and then I decided that if I still wanted to do this job, I would have to basically get rid of my apartment in Toronto. I would have to sell everything I had and take this big risk, right? To just travel during a pandemic, which, most people probably wouldn't really recommend. But I did end up doing that. And yeah, luckily it went well. And, even in 2020, like I was able to go to Greece, Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Albania with no problems. Like as a Canadian, they didn't require any extra documentation. Obviously, there was no vaccine. You just like social distanced, wear a mask or whatever, and that was it.
Yeah, and meanwhile in Canada was really wild. I remember that there was very strict rules and everything, because I went after the very hard period of the pandemic. I went to the US and I had to get all my certificates and everything, and I was very worried. They didn't check so much, but I had heard that for Canada it's like super strict. And so was the key that you went to this less like famous places, I guess, because I mean, travel vlogs from Italy, I guess a lot of material, or the fancy places like Dubai, Monaco and everything, it's also oversaturated. So I guess North Macedonia, nobody.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, like a big portion of why my channel has done fairly well, is because I've covered some places that maybe most people have never heard of, or they're just starting to get popular, That's actually kind of the best places to do content on, is places that there's a bit of interest, but not many people have done videos on. So that's kind of like what I ideally like to do with my channel.
People in the audience told me to tell you that they didn't know there were Canadian people living in Bulgaria before this episode. But actually, we have another great connection. I don't know if you met her because it's a Canadian. One of the, let's say, first ladies of Bulgaria. She's Canadian because we had a prime minister who is married to a Canadian, and he had also a Canadian passport, but he had to give it back because he's in politics. Do you have like sort of a Canadian group or Canadian community in Sofia?
I have actually, heard of the First Lady, and she has like a pastry shop or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
gluten-free. It's in the city center because I think one of their daughters has a gluten intolerance.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a very tiny shop. I've been once.
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't met a lot of Canadians, but funny enough, one of like my closest friends that I have here now, who's like Bulgarian, but she grew up in Toronto. And now she just moved, back here and stuff. So it's kind of perfect because, she's my local friend that can, help me with any, Bulgarian things. But at the same time, she totally relates to how I grew up and, she knows everything about Toronto. So yeah, she's actually the only Canadian that I know so far in the city, I think.
We have also, but she's not living in Bulgaria right now, Nina Dobrev. She's Bulgarian who grew up in
really?
Canada.
Oh, I did not know she was Bulgarian. Oh, that's awesome.
She speaks, there are videos if you Google like Nina Dobrev speaks Bulgarian. She speaks it quite well. I was impressed. And how is your experience with like English in Bulgaria? Can you manage to just use English, or I mean, I guess elderly people maybe are more familiar with Russian. How do you manage your daily life in Bulgaria with the language?
Overall, I would say it's, as far as even other destinations go, Bulgaria has a high percentage of people who know at least some English, I would say, but especially with the young people, it's very impressive how well they speak in English. Like, especially, here in Sofia, of course, being in the capital and stuff, almost every young person that I've spoken to has like amazing English literacy skills. So as far as, living in the city, center, the areas that I go to, I can definitely get by with just English. But at the same time, there are specific moments where, I really wish I learned Bulgarian more. For instance, just a couple of days ago, I got stuck in the elevator in my building. Like, it just stopped and, none of the buttons are working. And so, I pressed the call button to, get some help or something. And the lady there, she sounds older. So I used whatever like little Bulgarian and Google Translate I had, but, she's saying so many things to me. I don't know what she's saying. So in circumstances like that, like, I really do need to learn more Bulgarian.
Have you tried a little bit? I mean, I guess it's hard for but you know a little bit, like, Russian, right? So at least for the pronunciation, it's a little helpful, or is it helpful at all?
Well, yeah, I definitely have a huge head start compared to any average foreigner moving here, who isn't a Russian speaker. Yeah, knowing the alphabet, knowing Russian because it's somewhat similar absolutely helps. But to be honest, I just haven't been able to prioritize learning the language because I've only been here like half the time. I've been traveling literally like 3 out of 6 months. And then the time that I have been here, I've had so much, paperwork. I've had so many, like, just getting things set up, stuff to do, as well as, working full time, that I just haven't had that much free time. So I think this summer, after I get back from this next trip that I'm going on, I'm going to like really try my best to take some classes and like start the process.
I think also when you spend more time in Bulgaria, maybe with the daily life, it will catch up quickly.
Totally.
With you. Where is your next trip headed to?
Well, I'm going to Bonsko for the Digital Nomad Fest, which I'm really excited for. But after that, I'm going to Montenegro and Serbia on a trip. So, yeah.
Oh, if you pick up their local language, it still sounds
It's similar.
Somewhat useful for Bulgaria. Swear words mainly. People were asking also like what kind of Bulgarian experiences have you had so far? Like people were asking if you were on a if you have been partying. We have this very famous chalga music. If you have been to something like that, or if you have tried something of the local party experiences or something else that's quite typical for here.
I mean, I'm not a party person whatsoever, to be honest. Like I'm in, to bed by like 10 p.m. So unfortunately, I haven't really had that experience. But I mean, I've been invited over, to some locals' homes for like really nice dinners and stuff. And, when I was here in 2020, I feel like I explored quite a bit of the country. Like I went to, the coast, I went to the Rhodope Mountains, Plovdiv. So I feel like I have seen quite a bit of the country and gotten, the essence of the culture that way, but not so much the party scene, I guess.
When you go out of the city, is it hard for you to move around without? Do you have a car in Bulgaria, or how do you move around?
No, I don't have a car. I don't want a car, to be honest. Like I like that overall, like, you can take the bus or the train or fly, to Bulgaria, within Bulgaria. But yeah, of course, if I want to go to like smaller places, then you'd have to have a car. But for that, I think I'll just rent one. I don't think I want to actually buy a car.
People are asking if you have tried some of the local typical dishes like shopska salata or shkembe chorba.
Yes, yeah. I've tried quite a few things. The hard part is that I don't always remember the names of everything, but I really like that dish that's like in a clay pot. I think kavarma.
Kavarma, I think, yeah.
I really like that. Like, yeah, any kind of like the grilled sort of like meat dishes I really like. And obviously like banitsa, stuff like that. The mikitsa, the little like, donut things, right? Like those are really good. And then the Bulgarian dairy products are fantastic. Like the different cheeses, the yogurts, like that's really, really good.
Is it any similar to the Ukrainian food or not at all?
There's definitely similarities. There's definitely certain similarities, but I mean, I would say that like, yeah, like the Balkan region, like when I was in, North Macedonia and like Albania, I would say that food is like closer to Bulgarian cuisine than, let's say, like Ukrainian or Russian food. Like, for example, our staple food in Ukraine, like grechka, like buckwheat, right? Like, I don't think Bulgarians really eat that, do they?
I think no, not really. I have to suggest you there is one restaurant that it's in Bulgaria that it's very famous, and they do also like when you go eat there, there's also a little bit of a show where there are people walking on coals, like burning coals.
Oh.
I don't know if you to mention another of our YouTube colleagues, I Show Speed, if you have heard him.
I'll write down the name.
He's a streamer who streams in real life all over the world, and he came to Bulgaria, and there is this place. I'll text you. I have to find it. One friend of mine told me the name lately. You go there. It's there are people dressed in the typical like Bulgarian sort of clothes, and then they dance horo, which is our traditional like this inline dance, and then they walk on the coal. It's like, I think it's quite cool. Impressive.
Yeah, that's definitely unique.
That's a content worthy place for your audience. One thing that I was wondering, once you announce that you're moving to Bulgaria and the whole Bulgarian thing, Did you get a spike of fans or followers from Bulgaria? I mean, I'm one of them. My audience, some of them are new. How were you received online from the Bulgarian audience?
Yeah, it was actually really, really surprising and obviously very touching that when I officially announced that, Bulgaria was the destination that I chose, I got so many emails. Like, I sadly don't think I was able to, reply to even 50% of them because there was just so many. And it was like, also on my other platforms like Facebook, Instagram, like on YouTube, more comments than I had ever gotten of people both like welcoming me, giving me, suggestions, which I greatly appreciated about, how to go about setting things up here, inviting me to different things. So I never expected, so many people to be hospitable. So that's kind of what I mean of like, I have met some of the nicest people I have ever met, and like, they're Bulgarians.
I just checked the restaurant for you. It's called Vodenicata. I can it's written Vodenizata. Vodenica. It comes from water. It's like it's a very, very famous restaurant that you can try.
It's here in Sofia, or it's somewhere else?
I think it must be in Sofia, but I don't know if it's quite central or not. I'm 100. It's in Dragalevci. It's like on the mountainy direction of Sofia.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So definitely a place worth trying. And now that you're in Europe, are you planning to go more also like in the eastern part of Europe? What are what is now your content strategy or your travel strategy?
Well, initially this year, I was planning on just staying in Europe. Like, I moved here, so why do I need to go anywhere else? I was planning on just staying here. But, with doing YouTube, like sometimes you have to take opportunities, even if it's, different than what you initially had planned. So just in the past couple of months, I've spent a month in China and then, like 2 weeks in Japan because I had really good work opportunities in that part of the world, which was great. But like this year I will, go to Montenegro, Serbia. I also have a speaking engagement in Ireland in the fall. And then at some point, I probably will go to Ukraine, depending on how the situation is. I haven't seen my family since the war, began and stuff. So I'd really like to see them this year.
Is that in a quite heated area? Is it possible to get there, or are they more in the western side, which is maybe a little bit safer?
They're in Kiev, which is, good and bad, as in Kiev is, the most protected place, obviously, with like missile defense, but at the same time, it's also a target, right? So it depends.
How is this global situation affecting your work, because you're very connected to traveling, and now we have had the pandemic, which somehow you managed. Then we have the war in Ukraine. Now we have a new war opening in the Middle East. There is Trump that was not very friendly to Canada also.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it still is crazy, but
yes. So how does that affect you? Are you somehow more like, how do you say, you are more careful?
Well, I mean, to be blunt, I mean, I am in a privileged position in the sense that, a Canadian passport makes it fairly easy to get into a lot of the countries that generally I want to visit. And second of all, because I'm able to work, from anywhere with an internet connection, and overall, my banking, all of that has worked quite well, even when I've been, traveling from place to place. Like, it really is just being careful to not be in a place that's having problems or is about to have problems. Like, I know there's some YouTubers who specifically go to places because it's going to be dramatic. I would really never do that unless it's a situation like going to Ukraine, but that's because I have my family there. Like, I wouldn't be going to Ukraine for fun, right? Like, I try to avoid going to places that are having, some questionable things happening.
And yeah, you're not like you don't seem to be a very controversial figure online, but I think nowadays the audience can always be very sensitive. Were there moments where like you hit to do like an apology video or something that has happened so far?
No, I mean, I've never done an apology video, I guess, first of all. But I don't know, like, you always, when you're on the internet, you will have some people who either don't like you or get offended by something. So yes, I get plenty of comments that for whatever reason, I don't know, some people don't like what I do, or they're offended by something I said or did. But I've never had, I don't know, something happen where a huge amount of people were like, how dare you do that, or were, really upset with me. So I've never had, thankfully, I guess, one of those situations.
And how do you cope? Because I mean, I don't do this fully, like full time. I get also some little side income, but nothing much. How does it affect you, the whole stress of when you post a video, how well it's gonna do, or if there will be enough views, because also a little bit your income depends on that? Or are you at this stage so big as a creator that it's not a problem?
Well, I mean, thankfully, like, things have become more stable the longer I've done this. But still, yeah, I still have, worries of like, oh, why is the content not performing as well as I would have liked? Or, you have problems with something, like I did when moving here, not by my own fault, but because AdSense literally like didn't work as it should. So I didn't have income for a couple of months. So it's like, as somebody who does this full time, I think you always need to like put as much as you can away in savings, so that if you do have any problems, you can kind of, have time to work it out before you're desperate for money. And also just know that like your content will do well in waves. Like, sometimes you'll do really good and then it'll go down, and then it'll go really good and then it'll go down. So if you want to do this long term, I think you need to be able to like emotionally handle those ups and downs.
And have you mentioned that there will be people that gonna like you or not gonna like you. Does it affect you if they're like, I guess you have some amount of haters.
Oh yeah.
Is there anybody that, first of all, what is the main hate you get? And how do you deal with it? Is it like fine, you don't care, or sometimes it gets you?
It used to bother me more, when I was younger. And I think that's true for most people, is the younger you are, the more you take other people's opinions, more seriously. The longer I do this, thankfully, the less I care. But of course, there's certain things that people will write that I'll be like, why would you say that? Or why would you write that? That, yeah, like maybe it hurts my feelings for a little bit. But yeah, the most common like hate that I get is just being, 34 years old, not married, and not wanting to have children. Like, for some people, that's, I guess, a very radical sort of thing to be, and they don't like it. But then I also get, the other regular sort of mean comments that I think a lot of women get, which is like, I have people telling me that like I'm fat, I'm getting older, I'm going to be ugly. Like, that's generally, the most common hate that I get.
I get way more, because usually our topics are very controversial.
Really? What hate do you get?
I mean, on TikTok and Facebook, I think it's only hate, because I do like political reels in Bulgarian, where I maybe trigger the emotions of some people, and they just offend me. But like any kind of things, I don't know. They call me, I don't know, ugly, or that I wear glasses, or some stuff like that. But I really couldn't care. Like I think I laugh. Like we have it's, or some, the funniest ones are like when I get a comment that has nothing to do with the reality, with some person that really got somehow decided to write a comment, like, I don't know, something like, you started making videos online, you probably have never left your village in Bulgaria, like something like this, which could be the most opposite of my life story.
Yeah.
But it's really funny. So I don't care, but I think because I started doing this stuff a little older, as you say,
that definitely helped, probably.
And also, how do you feel about like, do you have how was finding an apartment before coming? Like, because you came from the other side of the world in this country, how was preparing your arrival in Bulgaria? Because you have to have at least a place to stay, or did you start with a hotel? How was it?
Yeah, well, I mean, with moving to Bulgaria specifically, like my advice to any foreigners moving here is, first of all, hire somebody reliable to help you. You will need it. And like, second of all, it is good if you can have like local friends, once you're already here. So like, luckily, I was able to get a friend of mine that let me, put down their place as the place I was staying, like for my paperwork. So I wouldn't have to have like, be paying for an apartment before my, paperwork was confirmed, so that was a big help. So I was able to just get like, an Airbnb when I first arrived here and stuff. And then I began my search for finding like the apartment that I'm currently in. And thankfully, because I had a really good recommendation of a real estate agent here in Sofia, right away, she was able to find me like a great amount of options right in line with what I was looking for. And I was able to secure this place in basically a couple of weeks, like way faster than I expected.
Did you have like problems with like people trying to scam you? That's something that a lot of people complain about in Bulgaria. About, like, I mean, you said that you have had your like network to settle down, but still now they cannot, like, I guess they didn't figure it all out for you. So were there moments where you had this experience with people trying to trick you into something, or you were fine?
I mean, thankfully, like nothing serious. Like, since I've been here, I know I've been overcharged for certain things because I'm an obvious foreigner. And if it's not too crazy of an amount, like fine. Like, I'm not gonna like argue about it. But obviously, if somebody was like obviously like ripping me off or something, I would say something or walk away. But luckily, yeah, with the most important things, like my paperwork and finding this place and all of that, like luckily I've just had really good people helping me. And from talking, with locals, I think I paid, very fair prices for what I got.
And what is your daily life look like in Bulgaria? You said like you're now going to Bansko, for example. Bansko is not a very well, I mean, it's a very nice place, but I don't know if it's very well connected. How are you getting there? Or what is your daily routine in Sofia? Do you already have your own rituals there in the city?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, like when I'm coming back here after a trip, like most of my day is spent in front of the computer. Like I just spend it editing, working, answering emails, all of that. But I do have like my daily routine where in the mornings I'll either do like a home workout, or I like to go for a walk or a run in like South Park or Borisova Gradina. I really like to be out in nature. And then, yeah, I'll work for the afternoon. And then in the evening, sometimes I'll meet up with, like friends or go to an event or something. And that's like basically my day. Like when I travel, my life is really crazy and all over the place. But when I come home, it's nice to just like, you know, be chill and just do regular sort of things.
That's I mean, was it always like in your plan? Because you mentioned as a kid you started modeling very early age. Was it always in your mind to do something that it's like independent?
Yeah. Overall, I would say yes. Like initially, I did want to work, I guess, you know, in the film industry, which would really depend on other people. And that's what I ended up really disliking about the industry, is I was always waiting for other people's approval, you know, to do the things I really wanted to do. But the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that, yeah, I ideally, I really want to be my own boss, have my own business, have my own schedule.
And how do you see, you know, I think being a content creator or being a content creator mainly, it's a little bit like being a musician or a rapper. Like, what do you think is gonna be do you think it's possible to do this for like the next 20-30 years? Or do you have an exit strategy at some point? You're like, because you clearly moved for also economical reasons. Do you have like your fire strategy, like the early retirement? Do you have a strategy for that, or you don't know yet?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously one of the many reasons of why I moved is to try and like save as much money as possible, right? To still have like a fairly nice lifestyle, but be able to just save more money on taxes and have a lower cost of living and stuff. So, you know, I get to keep more of the money that I make. So, of course, I know that I'm probably not going to be doing this, you know, forever, obviously. But at the same time, I think with the platform that I currently have and with all the people that I've kind of met, like I know I have lots of other sorts of industries that I could easily go into, you know, whether it is social media or travel and stuff. So, you know, ideally, I'd still want to keep my own business of some kind, but maybe it will just morph into something a little bit different.
Since you have moved to Bulgaria, were there some of your Canadian friends that, or I don't know if you have any other international friends from somewhere else that ask you questions about them moving to Bulgaria, or like how it is for you, if they ask you if they were interested?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of people, like not maybe close friends, but I've had a lot of people reach out to me asking more questions about moving to Bulgaria because my move kind of piqued their interest. But as far as, yeah, my close friends, lots of them now want to visit. You know, many of them aren't in the position to actually, you know, move, but many of them now are like, oh, I had no idea Bulgaria, you know, was so beautiful and there's so many things to see and do. So definitely, I think quite a few of my friends will be visiting me, you know, while I'm living here.
How do other people react to Bulgaria? Like, you've had some people already over. What is their cultural shock if they have shared something?
Well, my mom, you know, came basically a month after I moved here, and overall she really liked it. But for her, obviously, there wasn't really any culture shock either because, you know, she's Ukrainian, Russian and stuff. But yeah, she was overall impressed with all the places that I showed her, and also with the English level too. She kind of commented on that. She's like, I'm really surprised, you know, how many people speak English so fluently here. Like, she really didn't expect that.
Meanwhile, I'm sharing in the chat your channels.
Oh, thank you.
Because I hope that also, I mean, our little audience can contribute to give you a little extra Bulgarian viewers.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
What are the people that mainly follow you? What are more girls, or is it equal? Where they're from?
It's mainly men. It's like 80% men, 20% women. And it's mainly Canada, US as a demographic, like 20% Canada, 20% US, and then the rest is like all over the world.
And do you? I hear a lot of these content creators that say they have like learned how to use social media. Do you think there is really like a way to learn using social media, or is it like a talent? I mean, obviously you have to learn some things like editing and talking to camera. But what was for you the moment, like the tipping point where it really started getting crazy? Because I mean, 300,000 followers on YouTube, it's a lot. Is there really a thing where at some point your brain clicks and you know, oh, now I'm gonna do exactly this video and it's gonna be super awesome? Or is it more like you have a talent, you have the right camera presence, the right voice? Because I think one aspect of your content I notice is very calming. Like you're like also you are very good in your Instagram stories. Like you're very good like at make me interested. Like, hey, what's gonna happen with Alina? Like you're the like sitcom.
Well, thank you. I think it's different for every creator, right? Like some people are just really magnetic on camera and they don't even have to have good technical skills. People will just be so interested to watch them. Or you'll have people who aren't actually maybe that inspiring on camera, but they have great technical skills and they know how to market it. So with me, I think it is a bit of a mix of both, because I do have experience, you know, being in front of the camera so much with acting and modeling. So that definitely helped to make me feel more comfortable. But at the same time, over the past, you know, 10 years of having this channel, I've had to learn so many technical skills of like editing, filming, marketing. You know, you really have to learn how to do everything yourself unless you can afford to hire people, which I haven't. So yeah, for me, it's kind of just been not a slow progression, but it's been a steady progression. Like I've never had it where overnight I had even 10,000 subscribers. Like that's never happened. It's been like a steady climb up overall, I'd say.
I have you kept all of your videos on YouTube, or have you removed like the oldest one because you don't like them anymore?
I think my oldest one is still on there, which is, yeah, me just talking about beauty products. But I did private some because some were just embarrassing. Like, you know, like you look back and you're like, oh my God, like, you know, why did I do that? Or why did I do this or whatever? So, you know, just for my own sanity, I privated a couple of things, but I'd say 95% of the videos that I've ever made are still live.
And what is your favorite one, like that you think, oh, this is my favorite video I've done?
Oh gosh, actually, it's, I don't know.
Or you don't have one?
Well, I mean, well, actually, this is a bit of a sad answer, but before the war, I went to a tiny town that had these like old Soviet planes on the border with Russia. And, you know, no, I don't think any other content creator had kind of like covered, you know, that area. And from my understanding, you know, that area has been like completely bombed now, like everything's gone. So, you know, the fact that I was able to, I guess, you know, get footage of it before everything changed, you know, makes it kind of, I guess, memorable, but not in the best sort of way. But yeah, I think like my videos that overall I've done in Ukraine are my favorite, because, you know, that's obviously another country that I think is very underrated, and that if it wasn't going through a war, I would really recommend people visit, because yeah, Ukraine also has so much to offer and has really good people.
Yeah, but I think on the bright side, again, to end now, I'm just scrolling a little bit through your oldest videos. It's like having a nice diary, you know, like not only from these moments, but from all your life. And it's like also when you get a little bit bigger longevity as a creator, then also your audience grows with you, and it's an interesting thing. But well, Alina, I don't want to get away from your free time more than we had. I think all the people were really in the chat. There were many comments, people telling you that you shouldn't listen to the haters because you're beautiful the way you are, and a lot of kind words. Everybody is super excited from our small community. So thank you very much. I always say to each guest, this is your first time on the podcast, but it doesn't have to be your last one. So maybe in a couple of months or 6 months, when you do your year anniversary in Bulgaria, we can chat again. When I'm in Sofia, I'll email you. Maybe we can meet up.
Great.
And I don't know if you use Discord. But
not really.
Not really? Okay, because as a guest, you would have access to our Discord community for free for a lifetime.
Oh,
So I'll send you the link if you want to join. And thank you very much. And you're always welcome back.
For sure. Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody for coming out. Have a great night.
You too. Bye, Алина. И така, приятели, завърши разговора с Алина Маклауд, нашата гостенка от Канада с източноевропейски происход. Надявам се да ви е харесал епизода. Мисля, че на всяка Манджа Меродия подкаст, винаги когато имаме гости, гледам да не са гости, които вече са били на всеки подкаст 25 пъти. Лина тък му я бяха надушили БНТ, направиха едно малко клипче за нея, но тук при нас тя беше за час и нещо и така успяхме да се запознаеме с нея. Така, сега ще прочита малко чата, защото както винаги имаше хора като Тодор, който иска да коментираме също така и ситуацията в Израел, в Иран. Аз днеска говорих с един мой приятел от Иран. Питах го как е неговото семейство. Те са от Техеран. Каза, че ситуацията е доста плашеща. Каза, че постоянно летят джетове над града, че всъщност Израел бомбардират местоположения, където или има инфраструктура свързана с гориво, съхраняване на гориво, разпределяне на гориво, което води до това да има странични жертви. Също така неговото семейство са се евакуирали, отишли са в по-малко населено место в северната част на Иран, но проблема е, че няма бункери, няма организация, няма подготовка. И да, от една страна Израел са започнали тази атака, но от друга страна Иран от колко месеци говореха за плашителни речи, за плашителни послания и не са подготвени за такова нещо, не са очаквали. Ако не си подготвен за такова нещо, когато ти предложат дипломатическо решение, по-добре го приеми. Но проблема на такива кръвожадни режими е, че тяхната сила се базира на това те да показват собствената мощ и собствената доминация. И затова те нямат право да клякат на дипломатически решения. Това е същото и с Путин, същото е и с Китай ще бъде, същото е с всяки един тоталитарен режим, защото силата на един тоталитарен диктатор е в това той да показва сила, да показва мощ и надмощие и за това е така. Сега ще видим какви са последните новини. Имало е удар също върху националната телевизия в Иран. Хората нямат интернет в Иран толкова разпространено, колкото в Израел и за това не виждаме такова. И за това не виждаме кой знае какви разрушения. Сега ще ви покажа, чакайте да видя дали ще мога да ви покажа solo video, screen. Така ще си пусна екрана, да виждате и екрана ми. В Twitter постоянно е пълно с такива фейк ирански страници, които пишат нали, Hello Tel Aviv, обаче тези ракети, това е AI generated. Ето виждате, Twitter е хубаво, че в Twitter постоянно има такъв community note. Ако отидеме на Search, Explore, при всички положения са трендинг Иран, Израел и така нататък. И там ще видите повече такива пропагандирски видеа. Видяхме трампагата, този човек е толкова тъп. Каза, че they have to fight it out. Означава, трябва малко да се изпотепат един вид. Трябва малко да се изпотепат и ще мерясат. Това е казал трампагата. G7 са имали някаква декларация, която той не е подписал. Каза, че Путин трябва да бъде медиатор в тази ситуация. Представете си какво унижение е този човек за самите американци. По-унизителен президент американците не са имали. Те го избраха, за да направи America Great Again и той буквално казва: аз не мога да се оправя с това нещо, нека Путин се оправи. Представете си колко е тъп този човек. Беше там на това, беше на парада, не знам дали сте гледали парада събота и неделя, пълна пародия е този парад, никой не отиде. Там 5 човека са явили, защото са много объркани в живота. Просто смешна история е този президент. Както ви казах и в миналия епизод, войната не е нещо, за което може да се радваме. Не е нещо, което може да се радваме, но не дейте да попадате на тази пропаганда, която казват: ето виждате ли, ние сме същите като Русия, същото нещо е... Не сме същите като Русия, защото в Иран, колкото и да ми е жал за всички цивилни хора, тези хора не живеят хубав живот и без това. Там убиват жени насред площада с камъни, убивали са бивши атлети на държавата, защото са такива против режима. Нямат свобода. Спомняте ли си какъв беше там, как жените ги отвличаха по затворите? Разбирате ли? Това не е атака срещу държава, която да си има свобода, дето хората да са доволни в нея и изведнъж, нали, да я нападне някой. Това не е готина държава, разбирате ли? Ако ги питате моите познати, тук имам много хора от Иран. Всичките са си тръгнали от този режим, не от хубавото, тръгнали са си, казват, там е пълен абсурд. Даже някои не се прибират, защото ги е страх да се прибират, вече сега в момента не могат и да се приберат. Естествено е, че на мен ми е мъчно за тях, защото те нищо не могат да направят. Представете си да сте на 5-6 часа полет от в София, примерно, и да виждате по новините в София как бомбардират самолети и да не знаете какво се случва. Майка ви, баща ви, като звъннете да ви кажете, тук що падна една ракета на 300 метра от нас и изгармя всичко. Естествено, че не е яко. И не го пожелавам на никой. Но в случая просто тая държава е окупирана от един гаден режим, който държи там ситуацията и е така. Така седат нещата. Чакайте тук имейли. Така че това е гадна ситуация. Гадна ситуация. Ако имате конкретни въпроси за нещо, което трябва да коментирам, но то какво трябва да коментираме? Ето пише... Тодор пише: Путин не може да се оправи с собствената си държава, изби 1 милион от младите хора в неговата си държава в безумна война, той се справил с този конфликт. Да, и дето беше казал, трябва да има примирие или нещо от този сорт. Няма какво да има примирие. Това е пълна простотия, пълен идиот, нали, да го каже това нещо при положение, че неговата държава е във война. Като е за примирие, що той не направи примирие в Украйна? Другото нещо, което, нали, естествено ще бъде интересно, е какво ще се случи там с ядрената програма, защото имаше бомбардировки върху, нали, ядрената им програма. Може да ударат складове с обогатен уран, които могат да създадат някакъв облак. Тотална трагедия е света в момента, разбирате. Европа се превъоръжава, не се знае къде ще тръгнат натам нещата в Европа и така. Така че тегава история. Но парада на трампагата беше най-смешното нещо, да. Парада на трампагата беше просто най-голямото унизение за този тапак. Най-заслуженото нещо. Да се надяваме, че няма да му идва идеята пак да прави парад. Аз го казах в едно рилче, което пуснах в Инстаграм и в Фейсбук и в ТикТок, че трампагата е забрал едно нещо, че в тоталитарните държави парадите не ги прави, публиката не се явява волно, а се явява на сила. Така че това е. Тапак. Няма да издържи дълго. Тапаците не издържат дълго. Да знаете. Спокойно дишайте. Много оптимистично съм настроен. Скоро време и то тапак ще му мине времето. Просто те ще го изгонят с шутове. Така, Любо пише, не е пълна аналогията, но за Иран е друг въпросът. Израел спрямо палестинците правят също, което Русия спрямо Украина. Не е баш така, Любо. В смисъл има... В Газа съм съгласен, че в момента вече има някаква тотална разруха. То е брутално. Но нека да не забравяме, че Хамас направиха 7 октомври. Нали, не е така изведнъж да се събудили сутрин израелците и да са ги напуцали яко. Нали, със сигурност не съм съгласен с това, което се случва, но не трябва да се изпада в това нещо, че изведнъж Израел имаше 7 октомври. Представете си да ви се случи с ваша роднина това, което се случи през 7 октомври. Спомнете си момичето, дето беше с немски паспорт, което беше отишъл на някакъв фестивал, дето тия диваци го влачеха в пикапа отзад на задната седалка, без да таковат, без да им мигне това, без да им мигне окото. Отзад го таковах. Отзад на пикапа го влачеха това момиче. Ужасно беше. Така че всичкото е ужасно, разбирате. Ужасното е, че не може да се стигне до дипломатичен отговор на цялата ситуация и че всичко е така. Така, пише, евреите имат липса на емпатия към другите хора, познавам много от тях и парите винаги са на първо място, хората са след това. Просто евреите са станали затворено общество, защото като с 1000 години се опитват да убият тебе и тия като тебе, е нормално да почнеш да си мислиш само за пари и само за твоите хора. Не съм съгласен, защото това да генерализираш, все едно да кажеш всички българи са простаци. Не съм съгласен с такива генерализиращи съобщения. Това е грешно. Всеки човек е различен. Не мога да кажеш тия са такива, ние са такива. Да, че отдавна нещата в Газа преминаха разумните граници, така и с този удар по Иран показва, че те имат възможността да правят точно прецизни удари срещу тапунгерите, обаче в Газа са решили друга стратегия. Така че с това съм съгласен, но няма какво да го коментираме. Днеска имахме един хубав подкаст, който говорихме по други теми. Беше интересно, имахме международен гост. Дайте да се концентрираме върху позитивите. Все пак имахме позитивен епизод днеска. Нека един път да не си говориме за военните конфликти по света. Кажете какво мислите за подкаста днес. Хареса ли ви интервюто с Алина Маклауд? Доволни ли сте? Не сме лицемери, Тодоре, в този подкаст не сме лицемери. Ако трябва да съм честен, хората много повече се вълнуват от войната в Украйна, защото там умират бели. И повечето хора не си го казват, но не се интересуват от войната в Иран и в Газа и в Израел, защото там те са си така. Така си го смятаме ние. Обаче когато познавате хора, аз имам поне 3-4 познати от Иран, свестни хора, симпатични хора, жал ми е за тях. Тодор Атанасов, тези, които не знаят английски, трябва да започнат да учат. Това е положението. Да, ето позитивно. Канадците вече емигрират в България. Българския паспорт е по-мощен от канадския, бяхте написали в чата. Повече от това, какво искате позитивно. Вие няма да дойде някой с куфарите пари и да ви направи богати. Възможно, само важното е да имаме свобода, мир, да не летат ракети над главите ни и всичко ще е наред. Ние българите не сме безгрешни, но сме истински. Обичаме и тези, дето ни нападат. Защото имаме добри души. Души, които могат всичко да прощават. Аз съм най-зле в пеенето, но това беше моето изпълнение на Азис и Глория ли, коя беше. Ето тук сега излиза някаква новина в Инстаграм. Пакистан ще използва атомни бомби срещу Израел, ако премиера на Израел използва атомни бомби срещу Иран. Представяте ли си, братче, ние сега сме примерно 3 години във война, някакви било ни е страх от Путин да не използва да не използва някаква атомна бомба, въпреки че който е разбирал от ситуацията, знае, че това няма да се случи. И изведнъж е така, както си върви войната в Украйна и примерно там Медведев вика, сега ще използваме атомната бомба и изведнъж само отстрани само Израел. Пам! Пакистан! Пам! Почва някаква ядрена война между две държави, дето ние не очаквахме изобщо. Топ ще бъде. Ето, Любомир пише, аз учих не с английски степен. Така е, трябва от време на време английски епизоди. Тодор, това изречение е гати якото. Ела да малко в Западна Европа, да видиш как ги тормозят и прочети малко в Библията и в учебниците по история как са ги тормозили. С бившата ми, като се разделихме, тя ми върна около 40 пакета паста, стига да имам вода да я вара. Мога да живея в масето месеци. Дама, ти трябва и газ, нещо да я вариш тази паста. Защото иначе имаш точна бивша приятелка. Върнала ти е пастата 40 пакета. Така че... Добре, последни въпроси, братя и сестри. Гледате ли световното за футбол, за клубни отбори? Тотална простотия е. Може другия епизод да направим някаква мешаница на всички теми, дето са клубно първенство, FIFA World Cup for Clubs, да гледаме... Какво да гледаме? Тениса да коментираме, спорта, клюките, да знам. Гледах как Фокс слагат фалшиви аплодисменти на парада на Тръмп. Не пиши Тръмпа, е Тръмпагата, защото парада на Тръмпагата звучи по-добре. Добре. Не се сещам за други теми. Това е положението. Това бяха новините от днес. Нашия разговор. То вече не знаем кои войни да следиме, братче. Тия в Близкия изток ли остава само в Китай да почнат с Тайван и сме готови. Между другото, за тези, които гледат, записвайте се за канала. Много от вас се отписаха след клипчето за Грета. Аз винаги казвам това, което мисля. Като се отписвате, това е положението. И така. Добре, приятели. Айде, аз затварям за днеска. Имахме интересен подкаст, интересен гост. Забавлявахме се. Различна тема. Кажете, може би следващите подкасти да са малко по-лежерни, да е малко по-забавно и така. Айде, лека вечер. Споделяйте на всяка манджа мелодия. Казвайте на другите да го гледат. Пожелавам само пари в евро и здраве на всички, които са абонати и всички, които са членове. Влизайте в Дискорда, там вече имаме Tinder функционалност, да може да си намерите партньор или партньорка в живота. И това е. Тук някъде ще се появи следващото видео и продължавайте да гледате на всяка манджа мелодия подкаст.